airports in the area. Does the aircraft detection lighting system help in those situations? You're educating the board and myself as well.
So part of the site selection process and how we site turbines individually, we personally use a consultant to do a airspace screening before we even commence, any type of groundwork or soil testing, anything along those lines. It gives us a general understanding if the project is in close proximity to maybe a training route or too close to a takeoff or descending runway. We have completed those. We are also now in the process of working with the FAA on getting our proposed turbine locations filed, where they will then conduct a review and make sure that there's no issues with airspace. As far as the lighting goes, we've talked to several airports. Me personally in development, oftentimes what's preferred is the standard FAA blinking red lighting, but I will go ahead and say that we have committed to installing the aircraft detection lighting system in Coddington and Dual, and we would offer that up in this county as well.
Regarding, I'm sorry.
He didn't answer the question about life
Excuse
light.
me.
I'm sorry, I just didn't hear it.
You can ask the chair.
Oh,
After,
okay. Yeah, Tom.
when the board comes back.
Okay.
We're still going through the staff questions, and the board will have the questions. If the board doesn't feel that the answer to the question, the board will have that.
Okay.
The board understand that? One question, and it's not so much a question, decommissioning was mentioned a little bit, it was also mentioned in the staff report, and you are aware that the board, at least on a preliminary stage, has been talking about assigning a fixed value over a period of years to be set aside in a fund for decommissioning wind towers over the life of those wind towers. Are there any objections to at least what's on the face of the preliminary staff report and discussions of the $5,000 per tower every year for 30 years?
We have no objections to that.
Luke, did you have any questions on that? With that, Mr. Chair,
Now, to the board members, if you have any question for the applicant.
On the issue of ice throw, has your company ever made a settlement with anyone for property damage from ice throw, or ever been sued by anyone for ice throwing chunk rights?
Not to my knowledge. Is there anybody that we have? I would say we have 9,000 turbines in operation. I have personally never heard of any type of settlement. I know ice throw is something that can happen. As far as impacting the home or something along that nature, I cannot speak to that.
Along that, with that ice throw, is there anything about heated blades or putting heat in blades?
So board members, just along the lines of the ice throw, just a reminder to the board members, I did, as you guys started going down the road of the ordinance change, I did submit a letter to the board on, I believe it's June 8th of this year, on behalf of NextEra, talking about some of these things. So with the ice throw, maybe the first thing that I would say is that GE does have a recommended setback distance for ice throw, and that's 1.1 times the tip height of the turbines. So again, similar to your roadways and everything else, and that's for structures, not for property lines. And the reason for that is that the studies that have been done over the last couple of years, mostly in Europe, where they've got test sites of these turbines, like Vestas turbines, GE turbines, where they actually specifically test for the ice throw. What we see is the ice throw doesn't typically travel any further than about, in this case, give or take, the turbines are about 500 feet, the tallest ones. So your ice throw wouldn't travel any more than about 550 feet. So that's kind of that's to the homes. we also know that you have to be present, so we're well back, even your existing ordinance, let alone, again, the proposed changes that you folks have, that you're looking at, you're well back from anything that you would actually expect any damage to any physical structures on somebody's property. In order to strike someone, an individual, you'd have to be in the field in the middle of the winter during those icing conditions. And, coming from a long line of farmers, I never spent a lot of time in the field in the middle of -10. That said, those setback distances that you have in your ordinance are there, and the proposed ordinance are there and protective of what you look for. For the heated blade question, there are models out there. There are some turbine manufacturers that will do the heated blade. I don't believe the GE model that they're looking at here does do that. But what happens is under icing conditions, and I think Tyler took you through that, the control center they have in Florida. So they have both the control center in Florida that monitors all 9,000 of their turbines in the fleet, but then you also have the local guys in the operations and maintenance building here. So they're more of a kind of 8 to 5, Monday to Friday, come out for emergencies, but they're able to monitor the conditions for the temperature and the wind and everything else. So is Florida, and they watch those. And if icing conditions are suspected, they'll shut the turbines down. If icing actually occurs on the blades, they actually have to, the turbines themselves will shut down, but if they don't, then the control center shuts them down, basically because they get off kilter, right? So if you think about it, that's something that could harm the turbines themselves. They're expensive pieces of equipment. So they are shut down until such time that the ice melts. And, again, these are on private landowners. The landowners are contacted, don't go anywhere near the turbines, that light when it's happening, and then they visually inspect them. So the operation and maintenance guys will sit there with binoculars, they'll visually inspect them to make sure that the ice is actually shedded, falls straight down so the turbines aren't spinning. So there's a lot of controls around the wind turbines and the icing condition and your setback distances. When you look at what you've got in your ordinance now, and it's certainly the proposed ordinance, I think you're well beyond the minimum safety requirements for that.
The 500 foot from the right of way rather than from the center of the road?
So yeah, if you take a look at and I've got the proposed ordinance that I believe is in front of you folks right now. I just have it here in front of me. So again, as Tyler was saying, that he's actually going to go to the new ordinance as proposed as like the current one in front of you. In fact, the letter that I sent you on June 8th actually caught that and recommended that you go to the right of way, not to the center line of the road. And your new ordinance actually says on page, I guess it would be 3, and for the distance to the public right of way, it actually clarifies there that it would be to the, and I'm reading, the horizontal setback shall be measured from the base of the tower to the public right of way. And that's certainly industry standard. So it was something I think that was kind of legacy in the ordinance. Your ordinance dual, I think Coddington had the same, and it's been changed in those, and certainly should be to the right of way. And that's how my understanding is the project was designed.
Smaller township roads, biggest share of them get out of the country are minimum maintenance roads. Who's gonna keep those roads up and stuff with their minimum maintenance?
Again, Jamie Gentile with Next Air Energy. When we come in actually and develop the project, we'll do an initial review with first the county highway supervisor, then we will actually get with the individual township boards whose roads those are responsible for. We'll actually go out, we'll film the current condition of roads. We'll do our work. We'll usually get into a road use agreement with them that basically states that if we do anything to those roads that we're on the hook for the maintenance and repair of those. As the project continues, we are going to continue to have a need to use those roads. So if there's a point in which the project we need to get access to the turbines, we're going to probably take that under our own advisement. But generally speaking, once the project's done and we put the roads back the way that we found them, we typically don't have any responsibility after that, other than just as any other user of the road. And then if we feel like we need to do anything to get access, we'll take that. We'll work with the town or the county and townships to take care of that.
Other thing I think on decommissioning the concrete, you stated earlier it would be 3 foot deep, and here it says 4 foot.
Yes, sir, and we'll adhere to whatever the code requirement is, And I think that's what he followed up to say, if there's another more stringent, we will agree to that. So,
It also says in there, unless you've done an agreement with the landowner, so.
Yes, sir.
You said that's in your contract, is 36 inches rather than.
The ordinance, Commissioner, is 4 feet.
But it also says, unless they made a contract with the landowner.
Not regarding the reclamation, that's only on the setback for noise and, separation. If you want, I can point it out to you. I will get it for you.
In your opening statement, said that your proposed tower locations will meet or exceed tentatively proposed setbacks. Off-site participating. And yet in the actual manual, it says persistent to Grant County ordinance. Are you just referring to the old ordinance? And you got, so you're just basically copying it, you just said.
I think if you look at the details in which we did our setbacks, we actually adhere to what is being proposed.
That will
It's just-
stand.
Yes, sir.
Policy.
Yes, sir.
Right here, as it's proposed.
Yeah, as it's proposed today. Yes, sir.
Do you know how many acres are encompassed in the project site, and then what percentage are participating?
It's a little over 10,000 acres that are participating. Yes, sir.
And then you have to know the area of the site, so what percentage are participating? It looks like it's high.
I can work to get that.
Yes, Mr. Chair, can I address Commissioner Sparks?
Yes.
What you are reading from here, Commissioner Sparks, is the application of which they received a zoning regulation from the county that was not current. The current 2009 regulation does not reference an exception agreed to by the landowner. So it's 4 feet.
And again, we will meet what the standard is at currently proposed.
So how many towers are actually then within the 1,500 feet of non-participating property?
Property line?
Closer. Yeah, property line.
No. The rule, Commissioner, the rule is currently a 1,000-foot setback for non-participants.
Right.
The accessory structure, the proposed rule is 1,500 feet from the residences. In our review, from the staff perspective, all 32 towers are further than the minimum proposed 1,500 feet from the residence.
Right. I know that,
As
yeah.
proposed.
Yeah, I've seen that.
And at least 500 feet from the park system.
Somebody suggested 1,500 from the property line, so I just.
From the property line, no, that's from the actual 25 within the
Right.
residence itself.
Good question.
Right.
Right.
I mean, how,
That one there, we have,
I'm sorry, I don't have that
Okay.
answer off the top of my head. Generally speaking, we would set back from the property line, the 1.1 times the height of the turbine, and then 1,500 feet from any.
right.
Based on the current
Right.
form of the code.
Is there anybody that on this research, I'm just reading the legal notice, a disclaimer in here. They basically give you lots of information, but they, in the same breath, they say they're not gonna be liable for the information that we get.
And, I'm sorry, could you just clarify which study you're looking at?
It's a disclaimer here, from the EAPC, and it's for the Conference Flickers, under the Flicker and Sound.
Sure, I'm gonna allow them to speak to that.
I would like, if it's possible, to get somebody that does this research that actually stand behind it.
Yeah.
And just write the themselves off as
That disclaimer, as you find, is very standard in our industry. Just every consultant that does this kind of work is gonna have some sort of disclaimer like that. It's just part of the business.
Mr. Chair.
Mr. Chair, the report that I sent to you and this board on June 8th of this year, 2018, I stand behind it 100%. So my signature's on it. There's not a disclaimer there. So when I provided you with the scientific research on proposed setbacks, and then when I look at the letter that I sent to this board, I look at what was proposed and it's in front. I think one of the only change was that I had said that you could leave, I recommend you could leave sound at 50 decibels. You're proposing to change it to 45. That's less than the 50. Happy to stand behind that as well.
I don't know, there's another, in that same, on page 3 of, it's underneath J. Your shells, and it just says, the noise level shall not exceed 50 dBA on the sound pressure. And that's the effects of the perimeter. But yet, back on
That's the ordinance that says here. That's the copy that's what
okay,
that's
okay,
our
that,
standard.
I thought it was.
That's our standard.
But anyway, I went back to page 5, it says realistic sound dBA, then it says principal and accessory structures that are exposed to it. And on that deal, it says 45 to 50 dBA, we have 52 structures.
All of those are
I'm
not,
curious.
those are primarily participating structures. And in our staff report, we said that there are 4 that exceed 45 decibels, 3 of which are abandoned farm structures, and 1 is the Grant County public water system. So what this is a combination of both participating and non-participating.
But also, Mr. Chair, to your point, because I had the same question. You know, when I say I reviewed these reports, I'm like, how do we have 52 and 45 to 50, and then the staff report saying there's only 4? What the heck's going on?
Yeah.
And so what we clarified was, your existing ordinance right now, unlike most ordinances, includes, I think it's called primary and ancillary structures, to 50 decibels. That's very rare. That's the barns, the grain silos, everything else like that. When you set ordinances for sound, it's meant to be for the houses themselves, because you're trying to get people to sleep. So out of that 52, you've got both, as staff was pointing out, you've got both participating and non-participating. And so for the participants under your proposed ordinance, you're going to allow them up to 50 decibels, which is common. With the waiver, absolutely, sir. And I would agree with that. And then, so for those that are at 45 decibels, we're saying out of the remaining of those 52, there was only 4 structures that were above that 45 decibels non-participating. Only one of those 4 is actually a house that could be inhabited. Currently it's not, but could be. That's the one that's at 46.8 decibels. And then NextEra is committed tonight here to, abide by your current proposed change ordinance. And that will be, even though it's not inhabited right now, because it could be in the future, they'll bring that back down to 45 decibels. But yeah, I had the same questions. It says 52 here, now we're talking about 4. Does that help to clarify it, or?
Yeah.
Okay.
We talked a lot about wind turbines, nothing about the transmission lines. Are those transmission lines on private property, right of ways, or where are they installed?
So the transmission lines are sited completely on private property. We are not sited within the right-of-way at all. That was made very clear to us day one when we came into the office, that you will stay out of our right-of-ways. We respected that completely. We did work with the county to get a little bit of relief with conductor blowout, which allows for us to site the poles a little bit closer to the right-of-way, to allow for a little bit of swing if there was, in high winds, if there was to be some swing over the right-of-way. Reason why we did that was to benefit the farming operations on the property. If we could get it closer to the existing property line and closer to the right of way, and that's what we did.
You have easements for,
Yes, sir, we did.
Let's go back to property value. When you're looking at property value and saying that you've never seen any adjustment, are you just talking about the general property value? Because what Mr. Owens is talking about is a small area. And so I'm assuming that a small area of property value, when you compare that with the farmland property value, I am sure will not be changed, if anything, maybe more, but if you have just a residence on a small acreage, I'm sure that your property value will be decreased.
It's on small. It's the large location.
Yeah, so the studies that have
But
been,
that's all combined. So,
The studies that, the study that's out there that is typically used is, it basically does all types of, different types of acreages, different types of properties within that study area, and we have not, and the study shows that it has not decreased that property value.
are you willing to guarantee that?
I'm telling you what the study is saying. Yes, sir.
In other words, no.
We have not, as Tyler mentioned, we have not seen any kind of decrease in that, and I'd encourage, I'd encourage you to talk to the folks down in Brookings as well. I don't think that they have seen that either, and they've made that statement before.
We hear this quite a bit that, so that Next Air Energy is basically the owner of, is that correct? Yeah, and that as soon as the farm's up and running, they put them up for sale?
No, our business model is typically to own and operate. This is actually, the project name is Crown Ridge 1 LLC, Crown Ridge 2 LLC. A portion of this project will be transferred to the off-taker, which is Excel Energy. So I just want to make sure we weren't saying. And they will actually own and operate the Crown Ridge 2 portion.
The last one I have, I think, is the water table with the shallow aquifer. You're talking at possibly 30 feet deep. If you're going 30 feet deep with your cement, I assume that the water, the runoff water is going to follow the cement down into the aquifer.
So we do, before we do any construction, we do a series of soil borings, and we determine where, if we have an issue with the shallow aquifer, we will actually, we'll mitigate, or we'll have to relocate, or we'll move. So typically, though, we don't see any sort of leaching or anything like that from the concrete pour. So, and we do a lot of subterranean testing before we go into construction.
Mr. Chair, can I address Commissioner Smarts?
Yes.
In doing the staff report, we did take a look at the location of the shallow aquifer through the county zoning ordinance map and compared it to the location of the proposed towers within the application. And I don't have it in front of me, but I think the incidence was either 2 or 4 towers were to be located over the shallow aquifer. I won't cement that. into that, but we can have that here before we get